6:01 on Monday, September 25th. I call this meeting of the Clear Creek Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been duly called and that its notice has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. And the first item on the agenda is a public hearing discussing the results of the independent efficiency audit.
Thank you. As they come up in June 2023, the Board of Trustees approved an efficiency audit to be conducted by Weaver, the district's external audit firm, in anticipation of a potential voter approval tax rate election. And Weaver has completed the efficiency audit, and the results and findings of the audit will be presented now. Thank you.
Let's see. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Come on. Okay. So my name is Greg Peterson. I'm the audit partner with Weaver, and it's my pleasure to present a summary of the results of the TRE efficiency audit. You all have a copy of the actual report itself in front of you, as well as the summary results that we'll be going over this evening. So the first thing I want to go over is just a background, purpose, and some other information regarding the efficiency audit. So House Bill 3 required the Texas Legislative Budget Board to establish audit guidelines for conducting these efficiency audits for school districts. So every district across the state that's having an efficiency audit has the same procedures performed that are established by the LBB. So the purpose of an efficiency audit is to provide information to voters regarding a school district's fiscal management, efficiency, and utilization of resources before an election to adopt an M&O tax rate. So the district's election will be held on November 7th, 2023. So I just want to provide a little context regarding what the efficiency audit is. So this is not like a pass-fail audit. This is basically, there was 20 criteria, procedures established by the LBB. They said, audit firms go out and conduct these 20 procedures, accumulate your results, and present it in a report. Many of these procedures require comparison of the district to other peer districts and to the state to provide context, additional context for the results of those procedures. The engagement was conducted in accordance with attestation standards established by the AICPA, and the results that are within this report are from the district's 2021-2022 fiscal year. So that information is both for the district and peer districts, as well as the state, is all based on fiscal year 2022 information. So the LBB, probably one of the first criteria, one of the first steps when conducting this efficiency audit is to go out and identify peer districts to compare the results of the district to. So the LBB provides us with resources that we can use to identify these peer districts. We use the snapshot tool provided by TEA. Through that tool, we identified 7 peer districts. The main criteria that we used to identify these peer districts were districts of similar enrollment size of 25,000 to 49,999. The peer districts that we identified were Alief ISD, Humble ISD, Lamar Consolidated ISD, Leander, Mansfield, Mesquite, and Richardson. In establishing those peer districts, we also wanted to make sure that we got a mix, a dispersion of districts across the state that were mainly suburban areas. So the first thing we did when we performed our efficiency audit was look at some performance measures of the district. The first one is the accountability rating. So this basically grades the district based on 3 overarching criteria: student achievement, school progress, and then closing student gaps. The district received a B rating and a score of 89. Peer district received a rating of B and a overall score of 86. Next, we look at the district's first rating. Essentially, this is a grade of the district's financial performance. So the first rating is always lags 1 year behind. So the 2023 first rating is based on 22 financial information. Pleased to report that the district did receive an A rating, so that is a superior achievement for its financial performance. The next criteria that I wanted to go over was the student counts and characteristics of the student population. This is a very important measure. It influences the district's financing. So the overall student count of Clear Creek was 40,832. Peer districts were 40,244. That's really about the last time we see comparables when we look at this table. Next, we look at economically disadvantaged. You can see there's quite the dispersion there. Economically disadvantaged with Clear Creek being 14,545 and peer districts being 21,142. Moving over to English learners, the district has 4,850, peer districts at 9,000. Special ed, the district has 5,200, peer districts at 4,900. Bilingual and ESL, the district has 5,100, with peer districts being at $8,900. So as you'll see in the next few slides, those changes in student characteristics have a significant influence on the district's both state and federal funding. This next slide just is another snapshot, basically looking at these student categories. What we've done here is we've also added in the state averages. So again, when we look at economically disadvantaged, the district is at 35.6. The peer district and state are at 53 and 60%. So I won't read the graph to you entirely, but you can just see that there are a wide variety of swings between these different student categories. So we'll go into the next slide, which is the revenue per student. So this is where we see those differences in student classifications turn into numbers. So total revenues per student for Clear Creek ISD, again, this is based on 22 financial information, was $9,686 per student. The peer districts were at $11,487, and the state average was at $12,504. And again, that's a function of those student classifications, student categories, and tax rates, as well as property values. But one of the main drivers is those student categories. Next, we'll turn around and we'll look at the expenditure side. So that was the revenue side. Now we're going to look at expenditures. Clear Creek has total expenditures per student of $10,493. Peer districts at $11,385, and the state average at $11,939. So you can see again that Clear Creek ISD spends less per student, as it also earned less per student revenue. What I've done is I've classified these expenditure into categories, which I think on the next slide it'll make a more clear picture of exactly how those expenditures are being used during daily operations. So this slide, I've used those functional expenditure categories and represent them as a percentage of your total expenses. So as you'll see, the largest factor, the largest category of expenditures across the district, the peer districts, and the state average, the largest money spent is on instruction and related services. And you can see that regardless of the revenue generated or the expenditures per student, the primary driving factor is in instruction and related services. So very comparable against the peer districts and state averages. Actually, you can see that all of these functional expenditure categories are very comparable when you're looking at the peer districts and the state averages. The next information I'd like to go over is some payroll and staffing data of the district, as well as the peer districts and state average. So when we looked at that total expenditures, the largest functional category is payroll. So 82% of all of your expenditures go directly towards payroll. And you can see that, again, it's less than your peer districts, but a little bit more than the state average. I think as we go through some of these other rows, we'll see why that comes out to be that way. So Your average teacher salary is $64,447, which is higher than your peer districts and the state average. Part of that is location. I think that also has to do with some of your teacher turnover. You have a lower teacher turnover ratio, so you have more tenured teachers that require a higher wage. So again, looking at teacher salary, 64,447, 62,142, and 58 for the state average. When we look at teacher staffing as a percentage of total staff, 48.6 to 52 to 49. Again, very comparable categories there, or percentages there. Student per staff, 15.9, 14.4, and 14.7. And then students per staff, 7.7, 7.5, 7.2. Again, very comparable metrics when we're comparing the district versus the peer districts and state. Again, I think one of the key things here when we're looking at payroll cost and average salary is looking at that turnover rate being low. The next procedure that we were asked to perform through this efficiency audit was looking at unassigned fund balance. So that's a fairly important measure that auditors like to look at, that you as a board like to look at, is what is our unassigned fund balance at the end of the year. Basically, it represents funds that can be spent in the next year. I do want to be sure and say this, we're just looking at the general fund here. So this is just looking at general fund, unassigned fund balance. Now, there are multiple categories of fund balance, but the LBB required us to just focus on general fund, unassigned fund balance. And we're looking at that as a ratio of per student. What is our unassigned fund balance per student? So you can see over this 5-year period that Clear Creek ISD is below the peer district average. However, I will mention to the board that what the district does is they transfer monies from the general fund to the capital project fund to pay for future capital projects, as opposed to letting it reside within the general fund. So if we were to go back and retroactively put that money back into the general fund, you would see these numbers would be comparable or higher in some instances than what the peer districts show. So just wanted to make that point that there are reserves that are maintained in the capital project fund that aren't reflected in these numbers. Staying on the topic of unassigned fund balance, the LBB also wanted us to calculate what is the district's unassigned fund balance compared to 3 months of operating expense. So if we were to look at this this chart, if we were at 100%, that would mean that we've met 3-month criteria. Anything over, in excess, anything under is below. So again, you can see over this 5-year span that Clear Creek is below the 100% target of having unassigned fund balance equal to 3 months of operation. Again, going back to the comment I just made about there being reserves moved from the general fund to the capital project fund, in most of these cases, we would see that number exceed the 100% mark. Also wanted to mention that really the district's internal policy is to just maintain 60 days of operating expense, which in all 5 years, it met the 60-day of operating expenses. The LBB just requires us to calculate this on a 3-month basis. So those are really the key elements I wanted to discuss that came out as part of the efficiency audit, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Before we open questions to the board, are there any members of the community who wish to make a comment about the public hearing presentation? Okay, seeing none, any questions from the board? Mr. Bone?
Yes, and thank you for this analysis. I mean, I think this is very clarifying and well put together. I know the report is a little bit dense, but the presentations and graphs really do show kind of where we stand compared to our peer districts. And it's also a point I've made a lot, that the school finance system, especially if you look at the graph that shows how much revenue we receive compared to our peer districts, and the state as a whole. I mean, it is, despite our taxpayers paying much more in property taxes, the state gives us so much less compared to most other districts. It's almost like the school finance formula is weaponized against districts like ours, where we are successful and we have a tax base that supports us, but at the same time, we don't have the rural population or the scale that the big city districts do, and which is really unfortunate. So of the peer districts we looked at, do any of them pay recapture?
I don't believe, well, you want to, I
I
think you looked at that.
I believe there was
One district,
that
okay.
did pay recapture on, because they had copper pennies, and so they.
Okay.
Recapture.
And so when you in this graph, when you look at state revenue, is that net of recapture that they're paying?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes, this excludes TRS on behalf and recapture.
Okay. So there are some districts that if you made a graph like this, for like Spring Branch, for instance, is in the news for that. If you made this graph for them, they would actually have negative state funding, right?
Yeah, they would have zero state
Right.
funding essentially, or I guess, yeah, I guess essentially they have zero state funding.
Right. Well, if they're paying recapture, then it's below zero.
Yes.
But,
that's-
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples
Yeah.
here. So,
Yes, yeah, so I believe there was only one district with recapture in there.
okay. And the other question I wanted to ask, and I will. So, did you find in the comparison to peer districts that is it a common practice for other districts in the state? Not that we would want to stop doing this, but just so we're comparing evenly, is it a common practice for other districts to also have a separate capital and contingency fund in addition to their general fund balance? Or is that just kind of an artifact of the way we're set up?
It's hard to say like percentage wise what amount of districts do that, but no, it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon to have those types of transfers. Again, I think it's a function of how you're set up and how you choose to fund your operations, but it's not that uncommon.
Yeah, I'd kind of be interested to know if you added our fund balance onto our capital and contingency fund onto our unassigned fund balance. I think they're about the same amount, and so
I think it was about 56 million was
Right.
roughly in the contingency fund.
so you would roughly double the height of these bars. But then if you added that in for peer districts also, would we all end up in about the same place, or once you count capital and contingency, are we still a little bit higher than some of the others?
I did not go that deep into the analysis. I just looked at general fund operations only.
Okay. Yeah, that's just something I'd be interested to know. But I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bone. Any other questions, comments from the board? Seeing none, I did have just a question, just to make sure I'm reading it properly. On slide 7, page 7, 8, and 9, the comparisons show average for peer districts, average for state. My assumption is that would be considered CCISD average per student.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted, it isn't stated there, I just wanted to make
Oh,
sure
okay.
that wasn't,
Yes. Yeah, that's per student. Mhm.
okay. Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you.
Thank
We
you very
appreciate
much.
you doing this. This is an important part to moving forward with both the Vader and the bond in November, and so we appreciate you taking this look and putting this together for us. Thank you. Thanks, Ms. Benzai. Okay, next item on the agenda is our closed session. So the time is 6:21. The board will now move to closed session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.001 concerning purposes permitted by the act, including 551.071 consultation with attorney, 551.072 deliberation regarding real property, 551.074, deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignments, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an employee. Good evening. The time is 7:02, and I call this meeting of the Clear Creek Independent School District back in open session. The next item on our agenda is Pledge of Allegiance.
And we have some North Point Elementary students that are going to help me, as well as Natalie Troyer. Come on up, Natalie. Do we have some North Point friends? Wonderful. Great. You can lead us, okay? Lead me, Natalie. You ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
And please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you, and you may be seated. Not you, Natalie. Oops. Not Natalie. Okay, we have some recognitions, and our first one is the trustees come down to celebrate you. This is Natalie Troyer from Clearbrook High School, and we are so excited. Natalie is one of 10 students in Texas to be selected for the Ford Leadership Scholars Program. This program is designated to enhance leadership opportunities for FFA students, and the purpose of the program is to identify students who exhibit high levels of leadership and chapter at the highest level, at the chapter level, and help scholars build remarkable legacy for the future of our state. Natalie is certainly that person. She is also Area 3 FFA President, which covers 5 school districts, and is very active in the FFA program at Clearbrook High School. And on a personal note, Natalie traveled to Austin with several of us in this room with the Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce to advocate for public education among our lawmakers. So we were so honored. She takes that leadership, FFA, across whatever she's doing. She is a leader in our district, and I'm going to say in our state. And we are so honored to celebrate Natalie this evening. So congratulations, Natalie. If it's okay, we're gonna get mom and dad, family, the principal, yeah, teacher. Yeah, good. Thank y'all. We need a bigger picture. Thank you. Just real quick, before you leave, Natalie, tell us something that what is a trait or what is important for you as a leader?
So being in FFA and being so involved at a higher level, I think the most important part of leadership is just being involved and being a servant leader. So that's what the Ford Scholar Program is all about, is developing capstone community service projects to long-term impact your community. So being willing to be a servant as well as being in a leadership position is probably the most important part to me.
Thank you.
Dr. Engel? Dr. Engel? What is Natalie's animal that she raises?
Okay, Natalie, get back up. That's great.
So currently I have a batch of chickens, which I showed at Pasadena this morning. And I also have a lamb named Barbie. And then I'm getting another lamb tomorrow named Raquel. And I'll also do 2 more batches of chickens this year.
Nice.
Very good. And we know that involves mom and dad just a little bit sometimes. Thank y'all so much and congratulations. Well, some other big congratulations to our 2024 National Merit Scholarship finalists. Congratulations to our 2024 National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. The following students are among 16,000 in the nation to be selected based on their PSAT NMSQT scores as juniors. They now move forward in the National Merit Scholarship Program process, which includes their academic record, participation in school and community activities, and demonstrated leadership abilities. It is an exciting journey for them, and it certainly is an interesting theme that we have these student leaders here this evening. So first of all, as I call your name, please come up, and we'll have everybody up here, but we want individually, we're going to call your name. From Clear Creek High School, Brian Stevens. And Jay Young. Do we want a school picture or a picture with everybody? We could do both. Good. We're going to do a school picture first, and then we'll put everybody together. Wait. Oh! Go, Ashley. Yeah, and if y'all want to just maybe stand over there a bit, we're going to get Clear Falls High School, Christina Gephardt. And Ethan Miles. If you want to, we'll get our Clear Falls team. I tell you what, Brooke, why not? They'll stand right over. Great. And Clear Lake High School. Congratulations. So Clear Lake High School, Samir Abdelkulek. Paul Bailey. Joshua Cogburn. Menasha Gunurathunu. Jonathan Huang. Joshua Jang. Richard Wang. Gunnar Y. Rodney. And is that everyone from Clear Lake High School? Thank you. All right, congratulations to the Falcons.
We have one more.
Dr. Eagle, one more.
Okay, is that Chris Wayne? No. Come on out. Let me make sure. Cody Wang. Okay. Congratulations. We'll get everybody.
Everybody get kind of this way just a little bit.
Come on down. Get close.
Yes, so we're not done. Clear Springs High School. We have Clear Springs High School, Jared Drake. Congratulations.
Everybody scoot in. We'll probably need 2 rows of help to kind of come along. So, tall folks in the back. There you go. So everybody look here for just a second. Make sure you can see.
Now look at your parents.
Whoa. Before y'all leave, is there a volunteer spokesperson here that could tell us maybe a success secret for being a National Merit semifinalist?
I've learned a thing or two.
Well, a lot of us here are part of the Lake Scholars program at Clear Lake, so that helped me a lot being able to take practice tests and work with our teachers who are super experienced. So a lot of it comes from Clear Creek ISD support, so I'm very grateful for that. Besides that, it was just a lot of work on my own time, weekends, studying at night.
I would say that for the reading writing section specifically, a lot of the grammar and reading comprehension that you're being judged on, it's important to read books and keep up with your reading outside of class, because that will inherently teach you the grammar and understanding you need to know.
I would say just do all your homework, stay on the grind, keep studying, don't do drugs, and stay in school.
Thank y'all. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. It is such an honor to celebrate you, and parents, we know it's not a journey alone. We know it is hard work and encouragement from your part. Thank you so much for sharing your children with us, your students, and we really do appreciate it. We know all that goes into that, so thank you very much. Thank you. All right, we love when all that schooling, it starts at elementary, and by the time, look what happens in just a few years. It's amazing. It's so exciting. And we are going to celebrate an elementary school. We're going to ask real quick, did anyone go to North Point Elementary over here? Anybody? No, okay, well, we're going to have a first soon, all right? Yeah. Okay, so North Point PTA School of Excellence, we are celebrating. Our partnership with parents is critical to our success, which is why we are thrilled to recognize the North Point Elementary PTA, which earned the School of Excellence designation by National PTA. National PTA Schools of Excellence are models in building an inclusive and welcoming school community where all families contribute to the educational experience. Congratulations to President Heather Strausser and the PTA officers, as well as Diana Katner, principal. Please join me and come up here as we celebrate this amazing, really award. Congratulations. Come on up. We need everyone from North Point to come up and celebrate. To talk. Yeah, so really. But like, so what do you attribute the secret to this amazing collaboration and effort with parents, teachers, community?
I would say our teachers and our administration are amazing. So they're wonderful partners. They're very easy to work with. And I also feel like we try to emphasize CCISD's core values in everything we do.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much. Congratulations. This is exciting too. All right. And this is not about students, but it's about employees. And going back, it's all about working together and collaborating with teachers and everybody on that campus and every staff member. And this goes to every staff member. CCISD Top Workplace by Forbes. Clear Creek ISD is a great place to learn and work. We are humbled to make the Forbes annual list of America's best employers for 4 years in a row. And it all starts with recruiting educators and staff that have a passion for children. I would like to ask Dr. Casey O'Price's team, and I know several of you are here this evening, HR team, to come forward to accept this recognition. Of the 86 total workplaces, CCISD ranked 50th on Forbes' best employers in Texas. Clear Creek ISD is one of only 3 school districts in the Houston area to make this list. Congratulations, team. I'm gonna ask you one question. No, but think about what do you look for when you're looking to hire someone in Clear Creek ISD? I'm just making random questions, but I'm really curious too.
I would say we look for somebody who's got a passion for kids, first and foremost, because that's why we're all here, and is just going to share the mission of educating our students and adhering to our core values so we can continue to be the great district we are.
Thank you, Ms. Knowles. Thank you all so much and congratulations.
The next item on our agenda is district update. Dr. Engel.
Okay, and thank you, President Sanchez. First of all, I'd like to talk about voter bond community meetings. The district is hosting 5 community meetings for taxpayers to learn about Proposition A, B, and C that they will see on the ballot this November. We held our first meeting last week. These are not the only ways, excuse me, to be informed. Our campuses are holding meetings for their parents and staff members. We are visiting chambers of commerce, Rotary clubs, homeowners associations, and our PTAs to make sure everyone has information to be an informed voter on November the 7th. The last day to register to vote is fast approaching on October 10th, and early voting begins October 23rd. Quick facilities update. During our September board workshop, the board approved $750,000 in emergency funding for facility repairs. The funding has already been used to order parts and contract for repairs on chillers and other mechanical systems. A new source for the bus AC parts has been located, and transportation is working on orders for parts and repairs. So thank you for that. A through F accountability update. During our September board workshop, Dr. Sheridan Henley outlined the changes to the state's accountability system, which has been challenged legally since the changes were implemented after the start of the school year. The statute says any changes needed to be communicated and implemented prior to the beginning of the school year. We were anticipating the A through F ratings would be released this week. However, the commissioner announced they will be delayed well into October to, quote, further re-examine of the baseline data used in the calculation of progress to ensure ratings reflect the most appropriate goals for students. So we anticipate those ratings potentially in the next month or so. Canvas for parents. We are thrilled about the successful launch of our new learning management tool, Canvas. Canvas is nationally recognized for connecting students and teachers to digital learning in K through 12 and beyond. As with any new program, there's a learning curve, but our teachers and learning technology coaches lead the way. We will be introducing Canvas Parent View module to parents beginning October 2nd. As a reminder, Skyward Family Access is still the main forum for parents to see grades and progress reports and communicate with teachers. And finally, it is Attendance Awareness Month. There's a direct correlation between student attendance and student achievement. It is important that students attend school every day unless they're ill. Schools across the nation have seen a decline in attendance rates since the pandemic. It is our district goal to restore our average daily attendance rate to pre-pandemic levels of 95% or higher. In addition to learning attendance rates, also impact school funding, since the state provides funding based on the average attendance rate of students. And I'm proud to say that our attendance from this time last year to this time this year is up. So we're excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Engel. The next item on our agenda is community input. The purpose of community input is for the entire board to receive feedback from citizens. The board will hear public comments, but will not respond except as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act to respond to an inquiry by a member of the public or by a board member with a statement of specific factual information, a recitation of existing policy, or to deliberate a proposal to place a subject on the agenda for a subsequent meeting. Matters brought forth that require a response will be addressed by the superintendent as appropriate. All information received is subject to verification. Community input is scheduled for 30 minutes and has 2 forms. Those requesting to address the board in advance of the meeting are granted 3 minutes to address their topics, and those who sign up this evening prior to 6:30 are granted 1 minute. In a district our size, there will certainly be issues or topics which will understandably generate considerable interest from the public. It is important that members of our community be able to address the school board respectfully, without disruption, and without fear of intimidation from other attendees. On behalf of the board, the superintendent, and CCISD staff, we welcome your input during CCISD school board meetings. We request that everyone exhibit the respect and understanding each person rightfully deserves when addressing the school board during the public input portion of the meeting. Our first speaker this evening is Ariel Bell. Ariel Bell. And second speaker is Thomas Davis.
As you said, my name is Tom Davis. My audible.
If you want to just move the mic.
I first want to observe that both my sons are alumni of this district. I'm so proud to live in this district. And I'm also proud to see North Fork and North Point being honored tonight. I'm also an alumnus of North Fork. The news I have isn't really a photo op kind of news. It's more of a caution or an information about what's happening nationally. So I'll just dig right in. This is an open letter from a parent in another district to a school board anywhere, really everywhere, from a concerned parent of a gender-confused child. I'm going to quote verbatim. I have to say I am confused. I never ever in my wildest dreams thought that I would be speaking at a random school board meeting to help spread the idea that parents are the real constituents of their child's educational experience. I personally thought this was common knowledge or a common sense value. Teachers work for the parents, and the administration is democratically elected to facilitate and service of the needs and interests of the parents. Parents are interested in having their children receive an education, and they are entrusted you to fulfill that task. I realize the fact pattern might be different here in CCISD, and I'd love to hear more about it afterwards or between now and the next board meeting. Your primary task is that endeavor should be that of the continued transparent communication. In fact, much of this problem could have been avoided by sharing all aspects of a child's educational experience, including sex education up front. Now I know it can, but maybe partly addressing that already. I'd love to hear more about that as well. This would include full login access to all curriculum materials, regardless of copyright rules. Parental access should be part of the negotiated contract with the curriculum publishers. Publishers, school administrators, and teachers should have nothing to hide. With technology, it wouldn't be that big of a deal unless you've hired people who understand their job. I also never imagined that this discussion point, parental education rights, would be politically divisive in any way. I am constantly flabbergasted that all parents, all teachers, and all administrators in all schools, whether public or private, would not wholly and completely agree with this simple principle. I never thought I would have to state out loud that I have been a registered Democratic voter my entire life in order to avoid and to prove that I'm not some sort of right-wing extremist, whatever that means. I have just a few moments left. I want to thank you so much for allowing me to broach this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Next speaker is Ann Hammond. Ann Hammond and Laura DuPont.
We're here on behalf of the Association of Former Board Trustees, the CCISD chapter, we have a resolution in support of Clear Creek Independent School District's Propositions A, B, and C. Whereas on November 7, 2023, voters will decide whether to approve CCISD Proposition A, voter approval tax ratification election for a modified tax increase of 3 cents that is offset by the state's tax rate reduction, which, if voter approved, would result in a 14-cent tax reduction. And whereas on November 7, 2023, voters will decide whether to approve Proposition B, a $265 million bond for safety, infrastructure, and critical facility replacements and repairs with no tax rate increase. And whereas on November 7, 2023, voters will decide whether to approve CCISD Proposition C, a $37 million bond for teacher and student technology with no tax rate increase. And whereas all three propositions have been analyzed and recommended by community-based citizens committees and unanimously approved by CCISD Board of Trustees.
And whereas CCISD faces an estimated $17.5 million budget shortfall in fiscal year 2024 for items like student programs and teacher salaries, because CCISD's basic student funding allotment has not been increased by the state legislature since 2019, despite soaring inflation, COVID, safety, mental health, and other costly challenges. And whereas CCISD has built trust with our community by weathering previous financial challenges and by receiving more than a decade of state, national, and international recognitions from professional school finance organizations. And whereas passage of the three propositions will allow CCISD to maintain competitive teacher salaries, protect its recognized academic programs, and materially further the CCISD's mission of student achievement, and by extension, benefit every business and residents in the district. Therefore, be it resolved that the Association of Former Board Trustees enthusiastically supports all three propositions to ensure fiscal stability and operational integrity across the district. And we encourage all CCISD voters to vote for all three propositions. Adopted September 25th, 2023 by all 12 members of our Association of Former Board Trustees CCISD chapter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Next item on our agenda is consent agenda. Anyone like to make a motion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Bowen?
I move that I move adoption of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Any questions or any items that anyone would like to pull? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, if you'll raise your hand. And it passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of a resolution declaring intention to reimburse project expenditures.
Right. The Facilities and Transportation Department have identified several priority time-sensitive items that need to be ordered and possibly purchased prior to the November bond election. These items include chillers, school buses, and furniture and equipment for Clearbrook High School. These are items that have long lead times from ordering to receipt. And we are recommending that we utilize capital and contingency funds to make these purchases, which total $7 million. Federal tax law requires that we evidence our intent to be reimbursed from tax-exempt bond proceeds by having the Board of Trustees adopt a reimbursement resolution. This is a common practice and one that we utilized both with bonds 2013 and bonds 2017 to cover expenditures from projects that occurred prior to receipt of the bond funds. So our bond counsel has prepared the resolution declaring intention to reimburse project expenditures, and we're requesting the board approve this resolution tonight. We will, Mr. Miller and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Benzai. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Bond?
Yeah, just as a point of clarification, the projects that will be funded out of this resolution, are they included in the bond, the projects that are part of the bond that is going out to voters in November?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, they're critical infrastructure projects, plus the buses and the FF.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Mr. Cunningham?
I move that the board approve the superintendent's recommendation to approve the resolution declaring intention to reimburse project expenditures.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, if you'll raise your right hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mezakis, Mr. Miller. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of the use of capital project funds for facility-related projects.
Thank you. Good evening. We are requesting approval of the use of Bond 17 savings and interest funds totaling $3,493,095. This is for two projects. One is the critical infrastructure project for the natatorium HVAC for Clear Falls High School and Clear Springs High School, totaling $3,438,095. And then the next project is for $55,000, and that's to add card readers, door release, new doors, and security film to the superintendent's office suite and the legal office suite at the Education Support Center.
Thank you, Mr. Aragon. Any questions or comments?
Any questions?
I'll just make the comment that it's probably long overdue, getting, calls and hearing from constituents over at Falls, over at Springs, as we talk about our facilities and, the use of our facilities. It's a safety factor, basically. So I'm glad to see this, getting some attention.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Any other comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President,
Ms. Checa?
I move to approve the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the use of capital project funds in the amount of $3,493,095 for facility-related projects.
Thank you, Ms. Checa. Any other comments or questions before taking a vote? Seeing none, all those in favor, if you raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you.
My
And-
second,
Go ahead.
My second item is consider approval of the construction contract 2024.402 for the Clear Falls and Clear Springs High School natatorium critical infrastructure to Jamail and Smith Construction in the amount of $3,330,000. During the bidding process, we had 4 bidders on this project, and Jamail and Smith was the apparent best value bidder on this project. They are a local company. They have done a lot of work in the greater Houston area, and they have done a lot of work for CCISD, and we feel comfortable with them.
Thank you, Mr. Aragon. Any questions or comments? I will just mention, I know we're talking about these two pools, but I know that there are additional items at some of the other natatoriums that we've also discussed, and I think that's for future decision. Is that right?
Yes, so the board approved several months ago some work at all the natatoriums. So we have worked with the athletic department and with the schools on the schedule for it. So how we're going to do this work at Clear Falls and Clear Springs is we will tie it in the summertime with those pool repairs. So those pools will only have to be closed for the one time for both repairs. And then we will start the other pools in February after swimming.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Cunningham?
I move that the board approves the superintendent's recommendation for the construction contract 2024.402 to Jamail and Smith Construction LP in the amount of $3,330,000 for the Clear Falls and Clear Springs natatorium critical infrastructure project.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, if you'll raise your right hand. It passes unanimous. Thank you.
And my last item is consider approval of construction contract 2024.403 for the multi-campus safety numbering project. We recommend approval of to My Handy Craftsman in the amount of $120,000. We only had one bid on this project. My Handy Craftsman is a local League City company. We feel very comfortable that they're capable of doing this work.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Aragon. Any comments or questions?
I just wanted to make the comment, especially as I see a fellow safety member from the community. This was one of the items as we talked and collaborated with our first responders, that being able to identify, specific windows, rooms, corridors, doors, etc. That, one of the suggestions that they made as a best practice. So, and it just goes to show that the district is continually looking at those things to make sure that our kiddos are safe. So thank you for the work that was done and the time that was done.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham.
So,
Yeah, I will echo that. I know that our discussions as a practice as a district is to always be thinking about proactively things that need to be done around safety and security for students and staff. And while we're fortunate to have strong community support, and we're fortunate to have SLOs at our campuses, and we have a robust plan, we know that it's not something that we can take for granted. And so we're appreciative of the work that goes into thinking about assessing what other districts are doing, what best practices come forward from law enforcement. And so just would echo the thanks that Mr. Cunningham mentioned. I do think it's extremely important.
And one more item, this project's actually going to be funded by the School Safety Standards Formula Grant, 100%.
That's even better. Yeah. Appropriately tied to that. So thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President.
Mr. Cunningham.
I move that the board approve the superintendent's recommendation to approve construction contract 2024.403 to My Handy Craftsman in the amount of $120,000 for the multi-campus safety numbering project.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, if you'll raise your right hand. It passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you both. Next item on the agenda is 2023-2024 federal grant applications.
So in line with the grants, and we have some information for you, and pursuant to CCISD policy, the Department of State and Federal Grants Program has included federal grant applications the district is applying for as an information item for you. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Silva and Chris Kidwell.
All right, thanks so much for allowing us to come share a few minutes tonight about our federal grants. As Dr. Engel mentioned, we're here to share, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris Kidwell, our Director of Federal Programs.
Thank you, Dr. Silva. Good evening. So as Dr. Engel mentioned, our policy requires that we provide you with information about federal grant applications in a public information item. This is pursuant to a TEA requirement that we discuss federal grant applications in a public setting with the ability for people to make comment, which of course they can do during community input. You'll note that there are not state, local, or foundation grants on this report. We typically provide you information about those in your weekly updates. And just as another note, Dr. Engel is authorized to submit all of these without board approval, so it's an information item in any of those cases. So anyway, moving on, we start with the ESSA, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act Consolidated Federal Grant Application. This replaced No Child Left Behind, if you might remember that. The main parts of ESSA that we are able to take advantage of are Title I, II, III, and IV. Title I is the main part that we use for our 17 Title I campuses, which have at least 40% economically disadvantaged students. We also use it for a district-wide parent involvement program that is primarily our adult ESL classes, but they also do some other activities around that. Title II, we actually consolidate with Title IV, as is allowed by TEA. So we use both the 1.145 million of Title II and the just under $500,000 of Title IV to support our PL program here at CCISD. Title III is for our emerging bilinguals, and it supports the activities on campus and also our district-wide activities for that. That's the ELA part. Title III immigrant is specifically for immigrant students, and we qualify for those funds by reporting a certain number of immigrant students or a certain level of growth of immigrant students. And so that's funding that may or may not occur from year to year, depending on the demographics of the district. So for 23-24, we're looking at 7.9 million for ESSA. Moving on to special education, we have the IDAB formula grants at just over 6.6 million. And I'm intentionally not going to give you a lot of information other than what's in your update because we have the privilege of having Dr. Staley as our special ed guru who has all this organizational knowledge. And so I have intentionally not really immersed myself in this. IDAB preschool, 130,000. IDAB discretionary deaf, 164,000. So 6.9 million in federal special education funding. As you probably know, we also receive a fair amount of state funding for special education. Our CTE program is supported by the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Federal Grant. We have $357,000 for that. Our after-school program at Clear Creek Intermediate School is supported by the 21st Century Community Learning Centers grant. They're actually, I believe, in about their 7th year of this. This is the 3rd round that they've been a part of. We're in a great partnership with Harrods County Department of Education. It's actually their grant, and they pass it through to us along with 9 other sites on their grant. The Texas Education for Homeless Children and Youth grant application gives us $115,920, and that mostly funds our homeless services specialists, but also some contract counselors and social workers, and that's for any students who are qualified as homeless under the McKinney-Vento Act. And I think I've run out of numbers, so if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? Mr. Ball?
Sure, thank you. And this is very informative. I like seeing the breakdown. And I actually don't remember this presentation being given previously. It may have been a little while, so, but my question was, though, what kind of strings come attached to these grants? I know that like nothing the federal government gives away, they give away for free. So are there any mandates that we have to follow kind of above and beyond what the state would require in order to qualify for any of these?
Yes, absolutely. All of these grant funds come with specific requirements. The most important part that we have to comply with for all of these is to follow what we call EDGAR, and unfortunately I don't remember what that acronym stands for, but it's basically the financial purchasing, cost principles, and financial controls that we have to follow for all federal grants. So they all follow that. ESSA has its own compliance protocol that is, in every single part of ESSA, there's a different set of compliance issues that we have to be sure that we address. We actually employ a compliance specialist primarily to keep us in compliance with ESSA, though she is also able to address other grants that we have. So yeah, it would be a 1 or 2 semester class on the different requirements for each of these. Special ed obviously has, their own. But yeah, each one has its own fun, unique requirements.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm kind of wondering though is like, I mean, obviously there are requirements based on the financial aspects of it, making sure we're accounting for how the money is being spent. I mean, that was part of ESSA and ESSER also, as we remember. But are there any? I mean, are there any requirements that require us to adopt policies or do things that maybe we wouldn't do unless we were absent the federal grant, essentially?
The only policy I know of that we've adopted as a result of receiving federal funds since I've taken the position of director is the policy that we're actually following tonight, which is that we present this in an information item to the board. My understanding, there may have been policies that we adopted prior to 2018 that we adopted because of federal grants that we're receiving. But almost all of what is required in these grants is also required of us by either federal accountability, state accountability, federal law, or state law. And so by accepting these grants, we do agree to follow the rules of the grants and to comply with the requirements, the activities, the different principles of each grant. But in terms of policies that the board adopts, I'm not aware of any specific ones related to these grants.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I would say thank you for sharing all of this information. I think if I was just adding it up, in total, a little over $15 million that's generated. And I think as we think about the budgets that we're operating under from year to year, thinking about the populations that are identified and the programs that ultimately this directly complements, I think is not insignificant. If we were trying to pull together this funding from our local formula funding, I don't think we would be in a position to do that nearly as easily. And I do think it's an important part of what we offer in the form of assistance, in the form of supplemental resources and programs. And so I would just say thank you for sharing this with us. Definitely, it's an important part of our overall budget and enables us to deliver the kinds of programs that really are so important for the district. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you as well.
And with no further business, I'll adjourn us at 7:52 p.m.